ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वराय गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। ॐ Today discourse according the book Devatma Shakti, which is written by Swami Vishnu Tirth Maharaj, who is the famous saint in our tradition, Shaktipat tradition. And today discourse is Kundalini Power, chapter 5th. I bow my head into the feet of my Gurudeva Sri Devendra Vijnaniji Maharaj with praying him for upliftment of the all aspirants of this tradition. In Kundalini Power, according to the Yoga books, there is a slok which is I am telling you, that is Sasair Van Dhatrinam Yatha Dharo Hinayaka. Sasail, Sail means Parvat, peaks. Sasail Van, forest. Dhatrinam, Prithvi. Sasail Van Dhatrinam Yatha Dharo Hinayaka. सर्वेषां योगतंत्राणाम तथा धारो ही कुंडली। सभी योगों का जो आधार है, सभी योग तंत्रों का जो आधार है, वो है कुंडलिनी। All the yogas which is in the Hindus scriptures, these are the base of due to कुंडलिनी। तो ससैल वन धात्रीणाम यथा धारो ही नायका सर्वेशाम योग तंत्राणाम यथा धारो ही कुंडली। ये श्लोक है उसमें। एज ऑफ ऑल विद हिल्स वुड्स एंड लैंड्स द सपोर्ट इज द लॉर्ड ऑफ सर्पेंट्स, सो ऑफ ऑल टिटीज ऑफ योगा the supports verily is Kundalini. It has been shown in the foregoing pages that the Vedic Uchishta Brahma figures in the Puranic mythology as the sage serpent and is the residual serpent power left over after the creation is complete, and the corresponding static Adhyatma is pictured as Narayana resting of the serpent, on the serpent. Their sage is described as supporting the cosmos. In individual living beings, the individualized sesa left over after the physical body is built up is described as Kundalini serpent. Which supports the individual body, having her seat at the Mooladhar. Mool means root, Adhar means support. That is Mooladhar. Mooladhar, Mool means root, Adhar means support. The root or basic support of the spinal cord, known to the anatomist as a coccygeal bone or coccyge. The corresponding static Adhyatma is Swayambhu Linga, self-born of Thalik-formed Shiva, with the Kundalini serpent coiling around 3.5 times. Asleep with the tail in her mouth placed at the top. When aroused, the power uncoils and takes it march back to the evolutionary side, loosening the bondage. She ascends the spinal nerve and displays higher visions during the march of ascent. In, in cerebrum, she comes into the communion with her Lord and merges into the static real. At other times, when she is not the communion, she resides in the Visuddha chakra of the cervical region, resplendent in her purity. When awakened, she is experienced by yogins as a spiritual guide who directs, controls, governs, and leads the aspirants on the spiritual path to moksha like a living of the conscious divine helpmate, with her vigilant hand helping her the favorite all the 24 hours in sleep, dreams, and waking state. And that time takes him up for the samadhic communion with her Lord. She then works not possibly as when sleeping, but as Divine Mother on all the three plans of the physical, astral, and causal bodies. Her movements are then left felt, her voice heard, and presence experienced. She then becomes a reality and not simply an object of the imagination and conjecture. To a person of the modern education, every idea connected with the spirituality conveys an impression and something like nothing. If anything, it is of the nature paling into the realm of unreality and superstition. The student of the physical science, metaphysics, every thought pertaining to God and powers of the spiritual world suggest as an abnormality of the brain. An attempt to understand or systematic phenomena of the higher plans of spiritual life is waste of time, and any expression of divine powers is simply absurd and meaningless. But fortunately, in recent years, attention of some of our educated person on Western lines has taken a turn. The teaching of the Arya Samaj and the Christian missionary that had been working to cut at the very root of old beliefs have by reaction aroused a sense of the curiosity and understand them, their mystic significance and philosophy. But such of them who possess a sense of the reverence for the old tradition are generally accused of the blind superstition. Superstition, though at times rightly, but not necessarily always. Faith is not always a superstition. Faith combined with the constructive reasons preparing ground for the sound knowledge. Faith governs the motive power and breeds desire for knowledge, which in turn gives the necessary impetus for research work. Sound, the constructive reasoning, shows the right path and guards against the loopholes and the pitfalls. Strong faith tempered with sound constructive reasoning is therefore what a research student of any field must need. But for some time past, we have been witnessing in our educated people a tendency of fostering that line of the reasoning which is justly named the destructive, absolutely devoid of faith. This tendency has been making the mind of our youth a barren land and hot sands where no seeds of spiritual knowledge can grow. Five senses combined with the admittedly incomplete aid of the inference are by such men regarded quite sufficient to unravel the vast hidden treasures of knowledge lying behind the superficial phenomena of nature. The sixth sense of intuition and inspiration that has been through all ages. The secret spring of knowledge relied upon by all the genius of the past and the present is unknown to them and knowingly kept closed. Only through faith and deep concentration of mind leading to abstractedness, this spring of knowledge can be opened and utilized. All knowledge dawns from within but seems to come from the five windows of senses. They simply afford us a superficial contact with that what is outside, and international and inferential knowledge based on them is likely to be as incomplete and superficial as its parental source. Inference tries to take a person near the truth and brings a better understanding, but is never all sufficient. It more often than ever looks askance and remains mute. Such is the experience of all sincere seekers of truth, and hence they have to fall back on some more reliable, more definite, and surer ground. Such persons purposely tape the door of inspiration, that flash or light, which is an instant bring to the threshold of their understanding the so far unknown secrets. Such inspired truths inherited from the old seeds of sages afford us data to build afresh our plans for further investigation in the field of spirituality. Sometimes those truths handed down to us through the hoary past vistas of ages long forgotten have completed thereupon crust of the ignorant beliefs, and they must and ought to be clarified by sound and constructive reasoning before the acceptance. But it is no wise policy to throw away gold because it is mixed with the earthy ore. Most of our young men who have been brought up in the lifeless, rather life-crushing machinery of modern system of education have remained confined within the artificial wall of books and laboratories, guardedly divorced of the everything that nature and intuitions can teach them. By the time they are graduated, their intellectual faculties are paralyzed to materialism and atheism. To them, even life and consciousness are mere phenomena of the physiological plane, and spiritual metaphysics is the foreign to their understanding. The world around us is not merely what we see. There are the innumerable phenomena that never come within the range of senses. Physical science has of recent years brought us face to face with so many discoveries. Even then, no person can claim that the whole store has been explored. Explored. We may still is picking up the pebbles on the shore of the deeps of knowledge. When it can be so said that about our knowledge of the physical plane, much more can be said about the higher spheres still unexplored. Metaphysics and occult sciences have already given the glimpse in that direction. We see that this universe is the play of two kinds of forces, secular and spiritual, physical and metaphysical. Physical science gives us the information of the former and over the other possesses no jurisdiction. Is it not the full hardiness on its parts of the discount and set at naught of the vast field of knowledge that transcend its every bounds, deny, denounce, and ignore what is beyond its approach and try to judge and measure things spiritual with the physical standards? Om, Om, Narayan. Kundalini Shakti has met a similar fate. She is identified with some nerve unknown to the anatomists. Even Dr. Rayleigh, the learned author of the work Mysterious Kundalini, has been led to identify the mother Kundalini with the right vagus nerve. But in fact, Kundalini is as much the vagus or any other nerve as soul is an atom in the physical body, heart or brain. The author of the Mysterious Kundalini has been led so too much a belief as appears to have confused the Kundalini Shakti with the power of muscle and nerve control, which is not the case. Even the person without his Kundalini Shakti awakened can acquire the power of controlling at his will muscles and autonomous working of pulse or heart. And one, on the contrary, a person with his Kundalini well awakened may fail to do the same at will. It is true that the nervous system governs the control of physical, mental, and intellectual faculties, and such as also spiritual powers to an extent. But the relation between the two is like that the radio receiver and the electric power which work in the both from in and out. Internally through wires and extremely without wires. Kundalini Shakti too works inside the body through the wires of the nervous system and from outside without their help. Sir John Woodruff, in his foreword to the mysterious Kundalini, has correctly and in the clearest of the expressions has referred the nerve view of Kundalini is these words: she is the grand potential. As such, she cannot, in my view, be identified with any of the product which is she becomes. Kundalini is in my opinion a gross form of Shakti. Here Kundalini means a sleeping Kundalini. Again he says she is then not as such in my view a nerve or any other physical substance or mental faculty but the ground substance of the both, which on being roused ascends and is merged in the higher tattvas, ending in Shiva Shakti tattvas. When she is said to be merged in the Param Shiva, Kundalini is the dynamic real as the residual power, the power left over after the production of the Prithvi when she coils herself around the Swayambhu Linga or static real and rests. We fully endorse the above view as has already been pointed out. The Pran Shakti, the dynamic life principle left over the after the involutionary process has worked at the human body or a body of the animal or the vegetable kingdom is called the Kundalini Shakti, but she has potentiality of being roused for spiritual evolutions only in human beings. In the different treatises of Hatha Yoga, such as the Hatha Yoga Pradipika and the other seats of the Kundalini Shakti, is described to be located in the center of an egg like the kanda root in the pelvic region. Some regards it has a muscle at the lower part of the body between the genital organs and the rectum, known to the yogin as Yoni Asthan. Others consider it has those muscles which cover the body, bony coccygeal and sacral triangular portions of the vertebral column with the seat of the Kundalini at the base of the sacrum and at the top of coccyx, where the terminal part of the spinal cord rests again. Others considered the ganglion limb impar as her seat. Her descriptions as sleeping there as the coiled serpent appears the suggestive to the wrong idea that Kundalini is the particular nerve, and that idea is strengthened by the fact that for awakening the power. All works on Hatha Yoga invariably prescribed a course of the physical exercise. It is also thought that through the regular practice of these exercise and nervous systems with its various ganglia is stimulated to give rise to the short physical reactionary force resembling muscular impulse. But roused Kundalini is not the temporary result of the nervous stimuli. She is the permanent power working throughout independence of the nervous system, divine by the nature and sources of our life. Intelligence and consciousness. Thou her activity comes to the manifestation through the nerves, heart, and brain. The physical exercise of the certain nerves help to rouse her dormant power just in the same way as by the revolving a dynamo electricity is generated. Electric power by no means being the identical with the metallic wires wrapped round the magnet. Kundalini is also roused by divine love and devotion and utter self surrender to God through the japam or repetition of His holy names. His meditation and spiritual knowledge, she is also awakened by the favor of spiritual masters who, by the mere touch or the kindly look, do in the second arouse of the Kundalini Shakti of those whom they are pleased to favor. The last process is known as initiation through Shakti path, that is transmission of Shakti. She can also be awakened by the fixing the mind at Muladhar, the seat of the Kundalini, and through strong concentration of mind at the point. The today discourses is finished. Om यही दिव्य दृष्टि हमें दीजे भगवान, हो कण कण में निस दिन तुम्हारे ही दर्शन। ओम।